Joe Rogan, hot take of the day. Ilia Topuria's next opponent should be Islam Makhachev. Wow. Now, let me leave it right there, but if I was to put you in context with this, Joe, later in the program, it's not as though he forgot or he believes there should be an interruption to Islam versus Jack. Not at all. It's irregardless to outcome of that match. Islam should return home where he was king and do business with Ilia Topuria. Wow. Okay. I got to tell you guys, I have a thing inside of me where I love an idea that I hadn't seen coming. There is something about the swerve that excites me. And I thought that we were down to Paddy the Baddy, Arman Tsarukyan. I still believe that we're down to Paddy the Baddy, Arman Tsarukyan. I am well aware that a small portion of you guys would like it to be a three-way dance between Paddy the Baddy, Arman Tsarukyan, and the beloved Justin Gaethje. But if you're going to go off of what makes sense, it's hard to bring Justin in. And if you're going to go off of what makes sense, to Joe's point, it would be impossible to deny Islam. Listen, something's going on at 155, and we don't know what it is. Dana White stating at the post-fight press conference that he did not like a stare down. And he gave his reasons. I'm going to add to his words, but it was Ilia's moment. Give him his moment. Paddy's a maniac. You can't bring these two together. They have a personal grudge. Family, including children, were present, and that environment never should have been created. Fair, and fair. But it was still a hindsight issue. Like many times, Dana said, hey, somebody screwed up. Two guys are coming to a face-off. They get their hands on each other. Before Dana's even said me. You know, when it was about himself and guys got to each other, he said, I screwed that one up. I'm up there, my job. I'm supposed to read body language. I missed that one. But it's always a hindsight issue. So we have the benefit of hindsight in this commentary as well, which is the face-off was over. No melee did break out. Paddy and 5 buddies didn't jump in the ring. Just Paddy did. And he stormed the ring. He was invited. In fact, Paddy didn't even make a movement towards the ring until he was invited. I'm just sharing, like in hindsight, when you look back at this moment, and the greatest promoter in the world says, I would like the jury to strike that from memory, as though it was never said, as though it was never seen. When you're looking and guessing what's going to be next, I don't want this piece of theater to be influential. What was he talking about? Why did Dana say that? If we were to take him at his word, it's because the wife and kid was there and they got a legitimate beef and things could have happened. And those are all things that I could hear and understand Dana saying prior to it going down to justify his decision to not allow it to go down. This was after the fact when it did go really well. They both did behave themselves very well. Like professionals, as a matter of fact. They made a moment. Ilia pushed Paddy. This was one of the great parts of the night. It really was, but you got to appreciate the artistic interpretations. Ilia pushes Paddy, and then Ilia turns and shows his back. Now, that does a couple of things. First off, it calms a moment. And Ilia understands that Paddy, in no scenario, no matter how much he hates him, would ever touch him from the back. It just wouldn't happen. But secondly, it's Ilia's way of showing his own calmness. I was a bouncer in a bar. And to be a bouncer in the bar, at least when I did it, came with well less than 10 minutes of training. Well less than that. Closer to 10 seconds than 10 minutes. But when you approach somebody, particularly who has been drinking, and you're going to give them information they're not going to like, from you need to leave, to you need to set that down, to we're not giving you any more drinks. When you do it, the placement of your hands matters because you don't want that person to feel threatened. You don't want them to feel threatened. You're just here to verbally deliver a message. And it was very much what was being signified from Ilia. On one hand, I trust you even though I hate you. We despise each other, but we have a code. Number two, I have started this by pushing you, and I understand where this could escalate, and I would also like to de-escalate it. Which is what showing the back means. And third and finally, I'm so damn good, I can take you even if you attack me from behind. Those are the messages that are being said. The ultimate message in a bar when you're a bouncer is to go up to somebody that you have bad news for, and when you go to speak to them, you have your hands in your pocket. That will show that you're innocent, but it will also show some people, this guy thinks he's so good, he can take me even with his hands in his pocket. I mean, I'm just sharing for you, like, this interpretation is very wild. Where this all goes from here, it's a very wild situation. So Dana comes in and he puts the proverbial water on the idea of this massive fight, which, by the way, if you just want to go by the numbers, would be the biggest box office of 2025 in the absence of Jones and Tom. And I'm not sure that this isn't a bigger fight than Jones and Tom. I'm just saying that was supposed to do something. With that not even being a threat, Ilia versus Topuria will bring you the largest box office. It will sell out in advance more days than anything else in 2025. It will move the pay-per-view needle in a way that nothing else in 2025 would do. And it appears to be passed on by the guy that would benefit the most. And trying to figure out why is really the question of the week. So, my guess was that a deal had already been made, a promise had already been made to Sarukian, who has now gone through 2 training camps for a title fight and got no title fight, who has now showed up and been licensed in 2 different jurisdictions, paid his managers, spent the time doing the travel, away from home, fingers crossed, and no title fight. That's a hard thing to go through. And for somebody within the UFC to see that he went through that and a sacrifice to preserve the show, should it be needed, ever how unlikely, to tell him along the way, but by the way, if you do this, your third time, which will be your next time, I'll make sure that you actually get in there. That would be a very reasonable and in line historically with the way the UFC would communicate. That was my guess as to why that Patty moment was getting pulled back. And then Joe Rogan brings up the suggestion of Ilia versus Islam. Now, I don't secretly believe that was the direction they were going. I'm just going to co-sign Joe Rogan's point that we could. We don't have anything else lined up for Ilia right now. We don't have anything else lined up for Artem or Patty. Like, all these guys are available. Regardless of outcome. How many times can you say that? How many times that you can say that a guy can go into a huge fight regardless of outcome? This is the same benefit that Volkanovski was given when he moved up and challenged Islam. Regardless of outcome, Volk, your next fight will be a main event for the world title because you're still going to have one. I'm not sharing for you that Joe broke inside information. I'm here to ask you a question because of what Joe said. Here are your 3 options. Best comment below gets read on a future episode. Would you prefer to see Ilia versus Patty, Ilia versus Sarukian, or Ilia versus Islam?